Hello everyone, in this video I'm gonna tell you about 8 things that you need to know and do if you want to become the best cloud engineer ever. So decide who you wanna be, Thomas Anderson,
Mr. Anderson,
or Neo of the cloud.
my name is Neo.
And the first thing every Neo of the cloud needs to know and do is infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as a code is a way to deploy cloud resources when we are not using console or CLI, but we are using, well, code. We declare our cloud resources in YAML or JSON files. Then we deploy them using these files. And IAC tools of your cloud provider like CloudFormation if it is AWS or Azure Resource Manager if it is, well, Azure, deploy your infrastructure for you. You can actually declare all your cloud resources like VPC, subnets, route tables, virtual machines, load balancers, you name it, in one single file. And then deploy all of them with one go, with the push of a button or a single CLI command. I understand that there are many people who have deployed very sophisticated data center worth infrastructure using web console. I understand that it is doable, and I agree it is possible to do everything in the web console. But is it a way to go? No. No! Just imagine what if your boss will come to you tomorrow, looking very excited, and will tell you that your company is expanding to another country, and you need to build your marvelous cloud infrastructure in another region. Even if you are a type of a person who never makes mistakes and documents everything perfectly, you will still need weeks to build small-sized infrastructure and months if your infrastructure is large. Whereas if you are doing your infrastructure as a code, you can replicate it to another region within hours and sometimes even minutes. Infrastructure as a code will save you time, money, and will significantly lower your stress level. Not only if you need to redeploy your infrastructure to another region, but also during your day-to-day business. Believe me, it is way easier to work in the cloud if you're doing your infrastructure as a code. Thing number 2 every cloud engineer should do, that is related to infrastructure as a code, is use versioning system. You can of course store your configuration files locally or on a network storage. But what if you make a mistake? What if there are more people working with cloud infrastructure in your company? What if they make a mistake? And if there are 2 people working with the same file? What then? That's why you have to use versioning system. And the most popular one is Git. So learn Git. It doesn't matter which exactly tool do you use. You can use GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Code Commit. It doesn't matter which one, as long as you use it. It is very convenient to work with. You can create a separate branch if you want to develop a feature. You can test it, and then after it is ready, you can merge it back to the main branch. And I would say if you're using infrastructure as a code, which you should, and not using a versioning system, then it is not only inconvenient, but also dangerous.
Dangerous!
So if you are still not using Git in your organization, you should implement it right away. And the next thing every successful cloud engineer should know is CI/CD, which stands for Continuous Integration, Continuous Deployment. And actually, we have already spoken about CI part, which is versioning. So we won't spend any more time on that. Continuous delivery in simple words is that the code that you commit to your Git repository is getting automatically deployed using such CI/CD tools as GitHub Actions, Bitbucket Pipelines, Azure DevOps, Azure Pipelines, AWS Code Pipeline, Step Functions, and many more. And here you might ask a question. Hey, but all these are developer tools. We are cloud engineers. Why do we need to know them? And now let me ask you a question. Why do we cloud engineers exist? We exist so that we can design, build, and provide infrastructure for applications to run that developers create. So our task is not only to build infrastructure for them, but also to deploy their code, so developers can focus on coding and don't think about infrastructure and how the code that they write ends up there. Otherwise, they wouldn't need us. So we cloud engineers have to know CI/CD tools better than developers. Otherwise, they would just do everything themselves. So please learn them very well. And then create seamless process so that as soon as developers commit their code to the repository, it gets automatically tested and deployed, at least to the QA environment. Make your developers happy and be a real DevOps team. Thus you will become a really valuable asset to your organization. Next thing related to that is automation. Automate everything, automate everywhere, automate as much as you can. And the best case scenario, almost everything should be automated. Not only the deployment of the code, but also the deployment of the infrastructure. If you are using infrastructure as a code, if you are committing this to a Git repository, then you can use CI/CD tools like GitHub Actions in combination with developer tools of your cloud provider. And as soon as you commit to develop branch, for example, it gets automatically deployed to test environment. I guarantee you that you won't be able to do it only using developer tools. Well, maybe in easy case scenario you will, but very often in complex scenarios you can't. You will have to write small, lightweight helper functions, such as AWS Lambda, Azure functions, or Google Cloud functions. And for that you need to know object-oriented programming language that these functions support, and write your helper functions in that. My personal favorite is Python, but you can learn any other programming language. Be that Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#, it doesn't matter, as long as it is supported by your cloud provider. But please do learn one of these languages.
I know Kung Fu.
You can't be good and successful cloud engineer without it. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to know it good enough so you can build logic inside your functions. Things like if statements, loops, variables, API calls to your cloud provider, and so on. If you know how to use CI/CD tools, and you can write functions using programming language, I guarantee you will be able to automate almost everything.
Everything!
Next thing every successful cloud engineer should know is containers. Of course, you can run applications on virtual machines. It is perfectly fine. But even more popular way to run applications is in containers. Containers are small, containers are fast. They don't need operating system. They use the operating system of the host, which means that they consume less resources and they are faster to deploy. They are also immutable, which means that you can always be sure that the code that you committed is running on that specific container image. Almost all cloud engineer job ads nowadays include the requirements of the candidate known as containerization. So learn it, play around with Docker, learn the containerization services of your cloud provider, ECS and EKS of AWS, Azure Container Apps and Azure Kubernetes Service for Azure, and Anthos for GCP. Learn them well, and that will help you to become one of the best cloud engineers out there. Next thing that you need to know really good if you want to be one of the best is cloud security. Cloud security is very important. Every single resource you provision, every single infra decision you make has to be done with security in mind. We live in a very dangerous world, and even a small mistake can cost you quite a lot. That's why you have to take cloud security quite seriously. So search around for security best practices for your cloud provider. Use security services of your cloud provider. They can help you a lot. Even basic services like AWS Trusted Advisor, Azure Advisor, or Google Cloud Recommender can help you a lot. They can point you towards security groups that are too open, access credentials that haven't been rotated for a while. They can remind you that you haven't configured your two-factor authentication, these kinds of things. Cloud security is a huge topic, so start from essentials and build your knowledge from there. But already today, mindset to provide least privileged access to resources and users should be flowing through your veins. So learn cloud security. It is important. And the next thing that will make you stand out of the crowd is actually not that obvious. And it is documentation. Please do not neglect to write documentation. You maybe have perfect memory, but it might happen that the next time you have to touch the solution you have just built will be in 5 years. And I guarantee you won't be able to remember everything. You will have to spend much time reverse engineering your own work. And what if you quit? Think about your colleagues. It will be even more difficult for them. I understand that writing documentation is really boring.
Boring!
But it is a very good investment of your time. Properly written documentation will save you and your colleagues in the future many times. So write it, spend time on it, and I guarantee you will receive a lot of thank yous from your colleagues and significantly boost your karma. That's all for today. Master the things mentioned in this video, and I guarantee you that you will become Neo of the cloud. Thanks for watching, good luck to all of us, and may the cloud be with you. Always.